Welcome to Horror Bois. It's a podcast on the internet. I'm Austin, joined as always by
Chris.
And we are the Horror Bois. And this is an annual podcast on this old internet. No, my friends. This is a horror movie review podcast where every week we review a horror movie.
True.
So we're going to do that.
Oh, God.
That's the intro. We're done. We're out of the intro. We got to start the podcast now.
Okay.
We're currently discussing the Final Destination films. So this week we're going to talk about The Final Destination, which is the fourth Final Destination film.
And not actually the Final Destination.
No.
Although I would understand why you would think that it would be.
Kind of, but I would argue that the fact that was the franchise name the whole time.
No, but this is the Final Destination.
Yeah. Also, I believe
Not
it was
just
in some
Final
markets
Destination.
known as Final Destination 4, because it should be, as well as
Yeah, it's
Final
what's on the DVD.
Destination 3D, baby.
Because this one was in 2D, actually. That's very misleading. No, it wasn't in 3D. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, I watched it in
points
2D.
where it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I watched it in 2D, but it was shot for 3D.
Yeah, it was absolutely a movie shot for 3D.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the people who made this movie. Our director is the returning late David R. Ellis, who was the director of Final Destination 2. Our writer is also returning from Final Destination 2. It's Eric Bress. Our composer is Horror Boy alum Brian Tyler of Scream 5.
Oh.
As well as, every, important movie that, recently. Homeboy has an insane IMDb.
Repertoire.
We brought it up on the Scream episode, so go back to that one if you want to hear some of the things he did. But in case this is your first one, I just want to bring up this man is has a crazy career. Our director of photography is Glenn McPherson of Trick or Treat, One Missed Call, the American remake, and the last 3 Resident Evil movies, excluding, Raccoon City, because that's, its own timeline.
Yeah.
The last 3 of the... I forgot her name. Mila... whatever.
Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
As well as Final Destination alum Arlie Larder is also in those. Or Allie Larder, not Arlie. Yeah, I'm just going to move on. Our production designer is James Hinkle of Snakes on a Plane, Ready to Rumble, and is actually a Horror Boy alum for his work on Hatchet 3. But we weren't bringing up, production designers back then, so this is the first time you're hearing his name.
Yeah, there you go. At long last.
Yeah. Our special...
It only took you way too long to get to there.
Our special makeup effects are the Horror Boy alums at K&B Effects Group, which is the... initially K&B, when the K was for Kurtzman, who's no longer with the group. He's still alive, so make sure I clarify when I say no longer. He's no longer with K&B. But yeah, it's Howard Berger and Greg Nicotero. And now I'm going to list off the 27 Horror Boy alum movies that they've been involved in. Dream Child, New Nightmare, Jason Goes to Hell, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 03, as well as the prequel, Texas Chainsaw 3D, Wishmaster, The Faculty, and rounding it out with Scream 1 and 2. Talk about a career. And there are so many more movies that we haven't got to yet that we will bring their names up again. Next is our special effects coordinator, Guy Clayton of 21 Jump Street, as well as the Old Boy remake.
Ooh, 21 Jump Street.
Yeah. Then we got our special effects co-coordinator, which I didn't know that was a role, but that was also on on the credits. So I was like, I'll bring him up. Is Dave Nami of Happy Death Day to You, The Rage, Carrie 2, and Disney's only horror movie, Stay Alive. which isn't true anymore because they own Fox and all that. But at the time, it was the only movie that was like connected to Disney in any way that was a horror movie.
Yeah.
Then we got our stunt coordinator, Jeff Dashna of Spy Kids 1 through 3, Fantastic, and Predators.
Well,
I mean,
I think one of those movies is like okay.
Whoa, the Spy Kids movies are fun and actually have decent decent stunts.
Yeah.
Our digital visual effects and 3D animation is done by 9 studios. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to name any of the individual people because, there's like, I think literally 200 people credited for working on the special effects of this movie.
We would be here all night doing just that.
Let's tell you the studios. Hybrid, Cafe FX, PIC, Entity FX, Zoic Studios, Baked Goods, iTronics, Amalgamated Pixels, and the returning from the first 3 Final Destination movies, Cinema Production Services, Inc., which I did not mention on those first 3, but they have been there since day one. My bad. See, all those other ones I saw different studios above them and assumed, there's probably not that many studios that worked on it. But yeah, there were, 2 for the first one, 3 for the second one, 4 for the third one, and then for this one they went, how about we go up to 9?
Yeah, it sounds like a reasonable jump.
And make some of the most poopy CGI you've ever seen with 9 studios behind it.
Yeah, you would think that more money from more studios means better. Yeah, not always the case.
I will say, to be fair to this movie, it is from 2009, and there were people who could do special effects amazingly. Like, Industrial Light and Magic, they could do some amazing stuff, and Lucasfilm and stuff. But for the most part, CGI kind of still sucked in 2009.
Yeah.
We open at a don't call it NASCAR race because they didn't get the rights to NASCAR, but it's a NASCAR race. Where Hunt explains to Janet and Lori that he goes to the races hoping to see a crash.
And Janet and Lori not enthused about hearing.
Yeah, because that's kind of a horrible thing to say.
Yeah, only like a lot.
Yeah. Hunt is played by Nick Zano of DC Legends of Tomorrow and Beverly Hills Chihuahua, alongside Horror Boy alums Jack Plotnick of Rubber, Drew Barrymore of Scream, and Jamie Lee Curtis of Halloween.
But can we just say, wow, what a star-studded cast for Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
I mean, honestly, it is kind of insane that they had Drew Barrymore and Jamie Lee Curtis. 'Cause here's the thing. I like Jack Plotnick. He did a really good job in Rubber, but he's not a huge actor. Nick Zano, not a huge actor. But they got Jamie Lee Curtis and Drew Barrymore to be in the Talking Dog movie.
Yeah.
But alright, we'll move on. We're not talking about Beverly Hills Chihuahua today. It may be terrifying and terrible, but it technically is not a horror movie.
No, it's not.
Next we have is Janet, who is played by Haley Webb of the Teen Wolf TV show.
Ooh, Teen Wolf.
Lori is played by Chantel Van Santen of One Tree Hill, The Flash, and The Boys, alongside Horror Boy alum Jack Quaid of Scream 2022.
All right.
Nick then joins them with the snacks and drinks. Nick is played by Bobby Campo of Vampire Bats, the Scream TV series, and an episode of... I'm sorry.
Oh, and I was just going to say a whole bunch of other, freeform shows and movies.
Gotcha.
I looked up his IMDb. I was like, he looks familiar. Is he from Dragon Ball Evolutions? Thankfully, he's not.
No, he's not that guy. He does kind of look like him, though.
Doesn't he?
And actually, to be fair, that couldn't have happened because that is the reason the director of the first and third movie weren't here. They were off making Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yikes.
Yeah. He was also in an episode of Criminal Minds alongside Horror Boy alum and Final Destination alum AJ Cook of Final Destination 2. Yeah, when he sits down on the bleacher, we see that it's old and cracking.
Yeah.
Hunt offers Lori and Nick a drink of Jack's Buddy Jim from his fake binoculars. A mechanic named Andy asks if his girlfriend Nadia can use his binoculars. Hunt tries to tell him they're not actually binoculars, but Nadia takes them and takes a drink.
Yeah.
Andy is played by Andrew Fusella of Vacancy, Prom Night '08, Quarantine, and is actually a Horror Boy alum for his role in Nightmare on Elm Street, the 2010 remake. He really likes to be in remakes. Because you got Prom Night '08, you got Nightmare on Elm Street, and also Quarantine is a almost direct remake of Wreck or Record.
Yeah. Which is a phenomenal movie for anyone who's into found footage films.
Yeah, I've heard good things. We'll probably cover Quarantine at some point. Probably not Wreck, because taking notes on a movie in a different language would be really hard for me. Because it's hard for me to take notes on movies in English.
English movies.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge, I understand, there's a lot of great horror movies that we'll never get to, and it's not that I'm like, oh, I hate foreign movies. It's just, I can't.
Yeah, they could learn English.
Yeah, I can't take notes and have to read subtitles for every line.
Yeah. Whoops.
Nadia is played by Stephanie Honore of Vampire Bats and Taken 3 alongside Horror Boy alum Famke Jensen of The Faculty and Final Destination alum Chad Danella of Foundation 1, who's been like the Horror Boy connection for like tons of people throughout this like series. It's apparently Chad Danella's getting work everywhere. Good for him.
Getting paid.
Yeah. A man in a cowboy hat named Jonathan sits in front of the gang before moving down because he's blocking Laurie's view. Jonathan is played by Jackson Walker of 42, alongside Horror Boy alum and Final Destination alum Ryan Merriman of Final Destination 3.
Woo!
Yeah, they're both in the Jackie Robinson movie for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah. We then see, and this, if you haven't noticed at this point, guys, audience, that's the guys I'm talking to here. This is the point of the movie where we just introduce a bunch of characters. And, in the last couple movies, there'd also be, like, some dialogue that was important enough to write down. But there really isn't.
Not here.
Not in this movie.
Nope.
We see a mom.
Find out a lot of the dialogue in this movie is kind of just a lot of nothing.
Yep. That's why this is the least notes we've had for this franchise, because I didn't feel the need to write down as much dialogue. There's still some that I write down, but not as much.
Valid. Valid.
We see a mom who's kind of hot. That's kind of her character trait.
Yeah.
Her
Hot
name
mom.
is Samantha, and she has her kids put tampons in their ears as earplugs.
Yeah. Gotta keep your ears
Gotta protect those ears.
dry from blood. And also, I guess,
they're
protected from noise.
Yeah, it's for the earplug nature of trying to use them as that. I don't think it's for bleeding.
I think they're usable.
Maybe. Samantha is played by Krista Allen of Anger Management, Days of Our Lives, The Bold and the Beautiful, and Feast. And I just want to say, not to be like a creep, because I'm not a creep, but she's not a young woman at this point. And then, like, now, and like when I like seeing pictures of her from The Bold and Beautiful, she is one of like the most attractive, like, probably post 50 people I've ever seen. Like, she looks still, and like, I'm sure she's had some work done, because most people have in Hollywood, but you can't tell. Like, she looks great for her age. Good for her. Good for, what's her name?
Slay Queen.
Krista Allen. Good for you.
You go, girl.
You go get like, multi-hundred episode runs on soap operas.
Yeah.
I'll never watch them, but good for you.
Yeah, honestly, having consistent work like that is probably pretty nice, I would have to imagine.
Yeah. She's done like 400 plus episodes of Days of Our Lives a while ago, and then she's been on The Bold and the Beautiful for the past couple of years, had 200 episodes.
Hot dog.
Yeah. Her husband is played by Phil Austin. Her sons are played by William and Brendan Aguilard. So apparently they played by real brothers. That's kind of cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Look like it.
Andy yells, "Down in front, butthole." That's definitely what he says. To the people standing in front of him. When seeing the black security guard, George, Carter makes a racist remark to his wife Cynthia before starting to whistle the song Dixie. Which is also a racist remark, but it's the name of a song, so I feel comfortable saying that. I'm not going to say the just straight up racist remark he said leading into that before he started singing the song. But yeah, George tells Carter to move his feet off the chair in front of him. Carter does for like a moment, but then puts him right back up once George walks away. George is played by Mykelti Williamson of Free Willy, Con Air, Species 2, The Purge election year, and is most famously known for his role as Bubba in Forrest Gump.
There you go.
Yeah. Carter is played by Justin Wellborn of Southbound, VHS Viral, The Crazies remake, and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which means I now have to list off the 12 Horror Bois alums in that movie, because he did that movie alongside Horror Bois alums Tyler Main, Caroline Williams, Richard Reel, Margot Kidder, makeup effects artist Michael Deek, Sean Whalen, Daniel Harris, National Treasure Brad Dourif, and Final Destination alum Daniel Roebuck, who was in the first Final Destination. And he's the only one I'm going to tell you what movie he was in, because there's too many of them to tell you every movie those people have been in. Cindy is played by Laura Grice of Logan and the Dukes of Hazzard, alongside Horror Bois alum and Final Destination alum Sean William Scott of Final Destination 1. I got really confused by my notes there, because it says Logan and Dukes of Hazzard, and I was trying to think of what's the Logan and Dukes of Hazzard? I was like, what did I misspell here somewhere? But no, she was in the movie Logan and
the
Dukes
movie
of
Dukes
Hazzard.
of Hazzard.
Yeah. Nick notices cracks in the cement support beams over their heads. Bum bum bum.
Yeah. Which are already growing larger.
Yeah, you understand.
And he doesn't say anything. Anyways.
Yeah, you understand. We see the number 6 Extreme Energy car getting serviced by the pit crew. Get it? 6. Set the devil's number, guys.
And everybody knows that Extreme Energy car is actually just a parody of Monster.
Yeah. Which
Monster is associated with the devil.
I saw someone on some sort of social media tell me that at some point.
Yeah. Every middle-aged white mother.
Yeah. Death's Wind knocks over a or just real wind. I don't know. I'm gonna call it Death's Wind whenever
it's probably Death's Wind.
Yeah.
There is definitely some Death's Wind in this scene.
Yeah. Death's Wind knocks over a container of motor oil, pouring it over the pit. The number 16 car drives over it and skids onto the track with a straight up dolphin sound.
Yeah. Pretty funny.
I mean, it kind of is. But also, wait, what?
Definitely not intentionally funny.
No.
Boy, is it.
They use it. Well, I don't know, though, because it doesn't sound like a tire skidding. It's literally a dolphin sound. Yeah, that did not pick up at all, but that's okay. They know what a dolphin sounds like.
Guys, you can fill it in.
We see the wind blow a piece of paper that passes the column, revealing our group of characters are seated in section 180. Oh, that was the flight number in the first movie.
Remember, guys?
Yeah, I remember. The paper lands in Nick's lap, and he sees that it's a memorial for dead drivers. He then sees a shirt that says, "Life's a bad woman, and then you die."
Yeah.
He looks up at the practically crumbling support beams, before feeling wind that no one else notices.
Yeah.
Oh no. We see that car number 45 drove off from the pits with a screwdriver still in its car.
Ah!
It falls out, and car number 6 drives over it, popping its wheel.
Nothing happens though.
Yeah, then the movie ends. And then the movie ends. See you next week for Final Destination 5.
The problem was fixed and no one died.
Yeah. Guy just hit his brakes and they worked. The end.
Yippee.
Then we watch these amazing characters just hang out for an hour.
Yeah. It's actually just a redemption story and trying to bring back what's the racist guy's name?
Oh,
teach him why racism is bad. Yeah,
Carter.
boy Carter.
Well, to be fair, you say that as like a joke there, but it does kind of feel like Death was trying to teach him a lesson specifically later. We'll have to get to that.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is really out of character for Death. Death's never done that before, but you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
You know, Death's got a sense of humor.
Sure. So yeah, number 6 pops its wheel and starts to crash with tires flying off and some terrible 3D CGI effects.
Absolutely.
And I will say that I'm not going to bring up the terrible CGI, I don't think, again, because, let's be real, a lot of it's terrible.
It is, yeah.
It's made for
very
3D.
consistently bad throughout the movie.
Yeah, which was, who is it? Is it the stunt coordinator? He's used to this because, he did work on Spy Kids 3. He understands terrible CGI 3D effects.
That is the definition of terrible CGI.
Oh boy!
Right
if you want to know our thoughts on that, the second week in a row I'm plugging this, but we have a show that doesn't exist anymore, but it's still out there, and it'll come back, I promise. Where we do like a commentary track over mostly crappy movies. Which, to be fair, the first Spy Kids is good, so not all crappy movies. Yeah. But boy, is that third one crap!
Yeah, that one sure is a hot dumpster fire.
But it's fun to make fun of.
Yeah.
So go listen to us make fun of that. Follow the link in the description to the channel that's on, and then you're going to have to search it once you're there. I'm not linking that specific video. I don't care that much.
You can do that.
I really don't. Here's the thing. If you don't go to it, I don't care.
We will live.
Now, I made a quick reference to it that's taken way longer than I planned on it making, but I still don't actually care about you seeing it. If you want to, it's there. But you got to find it on your own. And one of those flying tires flies in and kills Nadia.
Yeah.
With an extra behind her cracks a huge smile as she's supposed to be running away in fear.
Man, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was
busy,
like, oh, yeah.
Being distracted by the fact that, it really just felt like there was no impact of, like, you saw the tire hit her, and you saw her get cleaved in half, but it didn't feel like the tire hit her.
Fair. But yeah, but there is one. There's after that happens, that's when everyone starts running away and freaking out, and one of the people is just straight up smiling as she walks off. It's like, what the heck?
I guess whatever happened for that CGI thing
was funny
to occur.
Or she was just happy that she was in the movie, even though she was supposed to act scared and there was nothing scary, But she doesn't tear. It's hilarious. Everyone starts running around, freaking out. Car number 6.
Smiling.
Yeah, well, only that one lady. Car number 6 hits another car, and it's now on fire, hurtling in through the fence, crushing some randos. In the chaos, someone breaks the cracked bleacher that the crew was sitting on, leaving a piece sticking up in the air, right at the camera.
Ah!
A piece of debris. I will make fun of the 3D effects when they come up, but I won't make fun of the CGI elements of them.
I sure hope I don't get poked in the eye by that piece of wood.
No, you're thinking of Zombie. This isn't Zombie. It does not go through anyone's eye.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
I mean, actually, I really enjoy that movie. But a piece of debris from another car comes flying in, bisecting Carter and Cynthia.
Yeah.
In some horrible CGI. I know I said I wasn't going to do it, but this, I think, is probably one of the worst CGIs in it.
It is pretty egregious.
There are some that's also
another
bad.
One where, the death happens, and it really just does not feel impactful at all.
And, here's the thing. I will say, I was thinking about saving this to the end, but when I did my research on this movie, I got really angry. Because the behind-the-scenes footage was all showing these awesome effects that K&B came up with that you don't see any of.
Yippee!
Like this next kill. Samantha trips and after being trampled gets killed by being crushed by a flying engine that comes in, which they actually had like a dummy of her that got actually hit by an engine. Yet this is the most like CGI cartoon engine in the world in this final cut. But there's actually here's the thing. I understand they were gonna have to piece stuff together with CGI because they're not gonna actually hit her with it, and they want to probably put her face over it, and that might look a little awkward. But the whole engine looks terrible, and like I saw it. They just literally filmed an engine hitting a dummy, yet they didn't keep that. It made me really mad. Because I love practical effects. And here's the thing. There's actually a couple times where I can tell that it's CGI in this movie that I actually don't hate. There's a couple effects where I'm like, oh, it actually kind of worked in that scene.
Yeah.
But this is not one of them, and I know it was done better. And it makes me mad.
Yeah, Adam Savage and FX Corridor on YouTube do a YouTube video where they try to like recreate the same thing with digital versus practical effects. And even the like Corridor people who are VFX specialists, were basically like, I mean, practical effects are always going to look better.
And they
filmed, it's more realistic.
Chris, they filmed practical effects for this like scene especially. There are cars on fire that they crash into pillars that are coming up in a scene or two that is from a different angle and fully CGI. They literally crashed a car on a track, a green screen track, flaming car comes flying in.
Yeah, the best VFX is subtle.
Yes, like honestly, the last couple movies had a pretty good job of that.
Yeah,
like I could tell there was some CGI there, but like they use it to, except for like I think it was the last movie. There was the one kill of. Oh crap! There's too many characters. A guy who got his head crushed, where they like just throw a bunch of CGI blood on top of it for no reason. But but for the most part, the franchise has done an okay job. But this movie, and I will try to stop harping on it. I probably won't, but I'll try.
Yeah, we'll give it our best.
Yeah. So then Andy trips and falls into the broken bleacher with it coming out of his mouth right at the camera.
Yeah.
George directs Nick and his friends to a different, less crowded exit. Jonathan gets crushed through the column by a flying car. This is the scene I was talking about that was specifically filmed with like a practical actual burning race car that they drove on a track through a dummy with blood in it, through a pillar, yet we got what we got here.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, of these, like, CGI kills, not even that bad. I wouldn't mind this one, honestly, if I didn't know there was a really cool practical one they also filmed. Like, genuinely, actually, of this whole, like, of this whole thing, this is actually probably the best of this part of this movie. This crowd, like, it looks decent enough. Like, I can, like, oh, okay, it works. But it could have been real, and it's not.
Yeah, it really could have.
The structural damage causes the ceiling to fall and crush Hunt and Janet to death, and somehow the most comical of the bad CGI kills.
Oh, it's terrible.
But but see, here's the thing: it wasn't meant to be, but it adds a level of humor that redeems it. Like, it's not intentional.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to watching it, I go, "That's stupid," and I love it. That's horrible. It's great.
It is very goofy looking.
Different falling debris separates Lori and George from Nick. An explosion then kills Lori and George, but apparently George first, and we know that for certain later, even though we don't know.
Right.
That's so stupid.
Yeah.
We'll get to that when we get to that. I'm spoiling plot points. And also the explosion sends Nick flying back into a piece of rebar that sticks out at the camera. Whoa! 3D effects, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I was watching this in 3D in a big movie theater. It might have been awesome. I will say that about
in
movies
2009.
Like yeah, if I was in 2009 in a 3D, like honestly, if I could go see this in a movie theater with a big crowd of like horror fans today, I still think the 3D parts of the effects might be more fun. Yes, some of the bad CGI would still be bad CGI, but if you had the right crowd, it could work.
You can't shine a turd, but you can make a turd a little bit funnier.
Yeah, you understand.
Yeah.
We then transitioned to reveal that this was all Nick's premonition, because of course it was.
Right. This is the Final Destination movie for those of you just joining in on the fourth episode of this series.
To be fair to the audience that hypothetically might have found this, they might have not known this was the fourth one because it's just called The Final Destination.
That is true.
I mean, this is actually one of the few times where they actually might have not known because it's stupidly called. They stupidly just said, "We'll put the word 'the' in front of the original name and it'll be different."
Yeah. Can't wait till we get the Scream.
Well, no, they finally started numbering them after Scream 5, called not Scream 5.
Yeah.
But honestly, that one, not that that's the point of this episode at all, but like I actually kind of don't hate that one for doing it because I felt like that was them actually specifically making a meta joke about the concept of it.
Yeah, no.
But
that's fair.
But that's not the point of this one. Nick starts predicting things like what Hunt's gonna say, and then the arrival of the cowboy, Samantha putting tampons in the kids' ears, and Andy yelling down in front butthole. He then tells his friends they have to get out of there before the crash. Hunt, trying to stop Nick from freaking out, accidentally pushes him into Andy, which angers Andy, so Nick and his friends run away, knocking into Carter, causing him to spill his beer. So he follows them, but tells Cynthia to stay there. Nadia follows Andy. The commotion also causes Samantha and her family to leave. George, as the security guard, follows them outside to stop them from fighting. Nick then explains that he saw that a crash is going to happen. Then we hear that crash happen.
Yeah.
George won't let Carter back in to help his wife. Excuse me. Nadia asks, "Have you all lost your minds?" as a tire comes flying in and kills her in a surprise kill with some decent gore effects after she hits the ground.
Yeah. Definitely not when the tire goes flying through her head.
But then, like, once she hits the ground, there's like a really cool practical like gore effect. So it's like, oh, that's cool. They saved the kill by mixing it. It's not perfect, but it is better than
it is an improvement.
It is better than half the kills in that premonition.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely the worst premonition we've gotten so far. And I remember telling somebody this was my favorite like intro kill. I might have said that when we started this. Rewatching this movie, not the case anymore.
That's fair.
Definitely still number 3.
I think for me it's number 2, but that's fair.
And that
I like the original. I like the original time this director did a premonition of a pileup. Not the second time he did a premonition that was a pileup.
Yeah.
But this time they were waste cars. Vroom vroom.
They sure were.
So yeah, she's dead. Let me find the spot where she died. There we go.
Oh no.
We then get our title card, followed by like genuinely some of the coolest credits ever, as they show past kills of the series in like this Mortal Kombat / for me it really reminded me of the Skate video games, X-Ray style, where it's like showing how like the bones broke and stuff.
Definitely felt very Mortal Kombat-esque for me.
Yeah. I put Mortal Kombat because I knew that's what people would think, but my brain went, "Oh, it's like Skate 2 when you did like did bailouts and like it would show you how many bones you broke." But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's
Did you also love the new metal song that they played throughout the intro?
I don't remember it, but I'm sure I enjoyed it. I genuinely really enjoyed these credits because they looked really cool, and you know it's really easy to make okay credits. There's also bad credits, but this one was like one of the few ones that I'd call good because it was like, oh, this is actually like intriguing me the whole time.
That's fair. I like the tradition of when they were hiding little hints about how the characters in the movie die.
That's fair.
But that's also understandable. It was pretty cool. Very much reminded me of like a Thousand Ways to Die.
Yeah. See, also another thing I didn't write down, but it did remind me of is just more so due to like the coloring. Did you ever watch?
That show on the Animal Planet?
Yes! Oh my gosh! Yes! Oh, that was totally what I was gonna say. It's like the world's most extreme animals or something like that.
Yeah. always some guy who was an amorphous green guy,
Yes!
and he would turn into a monster.
It reminded me kind of.
Let's say if the human male was able to run at 60 miles per hour.
Yes, we gotta get back to the point, but that moment made me so happy. I was expecting you to, because it happens all the time where I'll remember something that most people don't, and that's fair. I was expecting you to be like, no, I don't remember this show on the Animal Planet, Austin.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. We head to Death by Caffeine, where Nick and friends are all sitting in silence. Hunt is playing with his lucky coin. Nick sees "It's coming" carved into the table. Janet asks, Nick, was it like a dream or like a voice in your head? Nick replies, I just saw it. Can we just try to forget about it? Janet says, are you kidding? I'm never gonna get that image out of my head. I mean, that girl's face just... Lori interrupts. Janet, look, I know it's difficult. We're all a little freaked out, okay? That's a little weird that she's only a little freaked out.
We all saw that lady's head just get obliterated by a tire.
Yeah. Janet says, but why are we still alive? And Hunt says, who cares why? Okay? If we made it, we deserved it. He drops his lucky coin on the table. Janet says, Hunt, will you give the lucky coin poop a rest? Please? Then they see on the news that there will be a memorial for the 52 victims of the crash at the racetrack.
Oops. That's a whole lot of dead people.
Yeah, I think that probably includes Nadia, because, she did die at the racetrack.
True.
Lori says they should go. Janet says she can't go back there, and Hunt agrees by saying, yeah, screw that. And he actually says screw that. Normally screw that means I'm replacing, like, the F word.
Yeah.
But he actually says screw that.
Yeah.
Lori responds, I mean, the least we can do is pay our respects to those people there. Hunt says, what people? People who didn't have a Dr. Xavier with them to help them get out of the way? People who don't have one of these? He shows his lucky coin and kisses it. He continues, go ahead, Janet, kiss it. It's your choice, heads or tails. But I like head. He's so cool, said no one.
Yeah, he's certainly something.
He thinks he's cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Janet responds, can't believe I ever went out with you. Hunt says, can't believe you were so lucky. He's so cool.
Yeah.
He goes to flip the coin and Nick snatches it from the air and says, guys, look, we're here, all right? Something gave us a second chance. So let's be thankful and just try to make the most of it, okay? He gives the coin back to Hunt. And we transition to the memorial. Samantha and her husband thank Nick for saving theirs and their children's lives. George comes up to Nick and Lori and introduces himself. He starts to say, I just wanted to ask you how you... But Carter walks up and interrupts with, you killed my wife. I wanted to go in there after her, but George says, I'm sorry for your loss. And Carter replies saying that nobody lives forever and calls George the N-word. Because if we didn't mention, Carter's a racist. We did mention it because we did, talk about how he did said a racial thing earlier and sang Dixie, which is a racially driven song and all that, as well as he has swastika tattoos.
Yeah. He's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy. We're not supposed to like him. Nick tries to jump in, saying there's no need for that, but Carter tells him, "Back off, you freak." And George says, "It's time for you to leave, sir." Carter says, "Time? Your time's coming." And he punctuates it with another racial slur. Before walking away as Nick, Lori, and George all stare at him dramatically. Try to get back to the comedy of the podcast. Carter sucks, but I will say I don't hate that they let Carter be terrible. Because it's not like he's ever redeemed. He's just a bad person. And those people do exist, so I don't have a problem with them being portrayed in the media. I lost my place. Staring dramatically. Later that night, Nick is woken up by a nightmare premonition slideshow of a red door.
CGI slideshow.
Yeah. A red door.
Yeah.
A cross. A horseshoe. And an exploding 3D towing hook. As well as, I didn't notice it, but in the fire it says the words, "It's here," I believe is the phrase that... It shows up in every one of these premonitions.
Yeah.
Spoiler, there's gonna be more premonitions.
There is.
He tells Lori it felt real, and she tells him to go back to sleep as Death Wind blows photos of them to the floor with an X-Acto knife falling into Lori's eye.
Look at these.
Because Lori's gonna lose her eye in this Oh, wait. No. Okay. I felt like they're like...
Could have been something.
Yeah.
No, wasn't.
Yeah. We cut to Carter drunkenly driving his tow truck up to George's house. Carter cheerses his horseshoe hanging from his rearview mirror. When George's light goes off, he says, "Time's up," and leaves his truck idling. He takes a cross and a shovel out of his truck bed, accidentally lowering the towing hook to the ground. As Carter prepares a hole in George's yard for the cross, Death's Wind blows his horseshoe, causing it to fall and turn on his radio to "Why Can't We Be Friends" by War. It also Death Wind also locks his door because it can just lock doors now.
Yeah.
It's
a very powerful wind.
Yeah. The radio causes the truck to shake, and a beer falls and hits the gear shift, so the truck starts moving forward. As the truck starts moving, a gas can in the bed pours out, leaving a trail of gas. Carter chases after the truck and is hooked by the tow chain, and he's dragged down the road. The chain causes sparks to light the gas and sets Carter ablaze.
Yeah.
And a fun fact, the actor who played Carter actually, like, when just his leg on fire, it's actually the actor playing, like, doing this fire stunt. And then there's, like, another guy who does a fire stunt for the other part, like an actual stuntman who does, like, the full body burn. But yeah, and guess what? It's a fire stunt, so they don't really ruin it. It's just a cool fire stunt. Then the truck explodes in somewhat of a CG explosion with, crap flying at the screen. Speaking of crap flying at the screen, Carter's burning head falls to the feet of George, who came outside due to the commotion. Janet calls Lori and tells her to turn on the news because of Carter's death. She does, and she calls Nick in as the news shows George's red door that he saw in his nightmare premonition.
Oh.
Yeah. Also, I will say I'm somewhat stealing this from James A. Janice at Dead Meat, but she is like, this scene is like so like generically tropey without it being intentional. I feel like, where she's just wearing like really small underwear and the camera is behind her just looking at her butt, like,
oh yeah,
a thing that they make fun of in what's it called, Cabin in the Woods, but like that's a joke. This is them just doing it.
Yeah, it sure is.
And don't get me wrong, she's an attractive girl. I could see why someone would try to use her to be titillating in a movie. I get it, but also, like, come on. Just make it a little more sense of the story, at least. Why is she eating cereal in her underwear, watching weirdly...
Yeah, weird cartoon?
Weird cartoons with a lot more language than you normally would get in a cartoon?
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, he's in there. Now Nick's out there with her. He tells her he's seen the door before, and then he has another premonition slideshow, started by seeing the reflection of his ceiling fan. It includes scissors, a salon chair, a glass of water, a really hot flat iron straightener, with the words "It's here" very smallly on the metal part of the straightener, part that gets hot, a cigarette, and lastly, something hitting someone's eye. Could this be how Lori dies? Because, the eye thing they teased in the last... Oh, no? No, oh, wait. No, sorry. That wasn't supposed to be a tease.
Completely unrelated.
Yeah. He tells Lori that he doesn't think his dream last night was a dream, but a vision giving clues on how Carter would die. He tells her he just had another one. She asks who it was, but he doesn't know. He says, it doesn't make any sense. Nothing makes any sense. Ever since I left the racetrack, I feel like there's something in the room with me. What is happening to me? And she hugs him. And we head to Samantha showing up at her hair salon. After her kids throw rocks at a sign, one falling in a park, a man is currently mowing. She then sends them to go to the arcade for an hour. The greensman, who I thought was named Carl because that's what's on his, literal
uniform
shirt, but apparently, there's once again from a YouTube video I watched from CZ's World, who does things you might have missed series. There's an article written about this later that's shown, and it has a different name. So maybe it's whatever that name was. I don't remember what it was, but yeah. But the actor who plays this character, the greensman, which is what he's known in the actual credits, because most of the character names I've written here are from people who found the original script and stuff, because half these characters don't have real names unless they're George, the main for Samantha, who has a hyphened name, it's her character trope and then Samantha, but everyone else is the racist wife, the cowboy, the mechanic's girlfriend. It's okay. And some of those, their names are said in the movie, and it's oh, well, that's their name. Carter's name is on the screen, but for some reason he's credited as the racist.
The racist guy.
But whatever. I mean, to be fair, he is a racist. It is a fair description, but a little weird.
To not use the name when it's given in the movie. Yeah. I'm gonna go with Carl because it's on a shirt.
Sure. Samantha goes into the salon and tells Cheyenne she had a 5 o'clock appointment with Richard. Cheyenne is played by Tina Parker of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Excuse me. Cheyenne tells her Richard is out because someone got killed on his street. What was that? It was Carter. Oh my gosh, the worlds are connected.
Oh.
Samantha,
it's the same MCU
from the scene earlier. Yes.
Yeah.
This scene is in the same world as the scene before it. I know. Crazy concept for a movie.
That's crazy. How'd they do that?
It's never been done before.
Continuity?
Samantha asks if someone else can see her, and Cheyenne tries to tell her that it's 10 to 6 and they close at 6, so they can't, but she gives in and push over Cheyenne.
Yeah.
Her hairdresser is Dee Dee, played by Cecily Montaigne? Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
The salon chair Samantha is in has an issue with the hydraulics, so it falls down. And Dee Dee says she's asked for it to be fixed 1,000 times. Dee Dee works on her hair while Samantha gets a pedicure. The pedicurist is played by Stacy Dizon. Also, I will say that we get a lot of close-up shots of the processes, both of them, even though the pedicure is not relevant to the story at all.
Yeah, well, she's gonna get her toenail clipped too far. And
I think it is supposed to be a red herring. We're oh, is something about to happen here because it's so close, it's so detailed. You're well, something's about to happen, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I think the homeboy, the late David R. Ellis, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but I think he might have been into big toes. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Big toes.
I mean, that's all we see in this shot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's feet and toes.
No, just the big toes
aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
He only likes big toes. Allegedly, for this person who is dead, and I will move on from this joke because I forgot that he was dead when I went to go look to see who directed this.
Whoopsie.
Actually, I lied. Sorry, I got it mixed up. It's actually Glenn McPherson, the director of photography, who's really into toes and put this shot in.
Is he alive?
Yeah, that's why I can make that joke.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, we can make that joke because he's alive. It's okay to slander someone if they're alive.
It's just a joke.
Also, it's not slander.
Yeah. Slander is a legal term, man. We're not trying to get sued.
It's also not liable because it's not in the written form. All right, moving on. Well, that's really weird. Did I have that? No, I didn't have the joke written down. We're good.
I'm glad you didn't write that one down.
No, that was one of those spontaneous jokes that's
just off the cuff.
Peak comedy from Austin. I don't remember where I left off, man.
Toes and not being relevant to that.
Cheyenne. Oh yeah, pedicure. Way down here. Cheyenne props a broom. Oh, sorry. No, first. Sorry. After we get the close-up shots, Samantha asks for a glass of water. Cheyenne props a broom up that falls, hitting a conditioner bottle into a squirt bottle of body butter, causing it to spray a puddle on the floor.
Ah!
We then see that the ceiling fan is not secure.
Like, really not secure.
Yeah, like it's really scary. The condensation from the glass of water pools on the counter, causing the hairspray to slide into the running flat iron straightener. It starts to burn as we get ominous shots of all the possible dangerous things. And the scissors near her eye and all that. It's like, oh, that's so scary. Then the chair falls down while Dee Dee is cutting Samantha's hair, but she doesn't get hurt. She's fine.
Yeah, nothing happens
she's fine.
in that.
Her kids come running in, and they slip on the body butter. Then the can
and
of hairspray...
everything is still fine, and
fine.
they clean it up.
Yeah. Then the can of hairspray explodes, hitting the fan, causing it to fall in front of Samantha.
Yeah. No one dies, guys. Everything's fine.
Samantha is
just
angry
really off his game
with the mess her sons made and tells them, "I've got my eye on you two." She then turns out the door, and the rock the boys threw is hit by the lawnmower, and it gets sent flying at her and goes through her eye and out the back of her head, killing her.
Yeah.
It's alright. It's not the best kill, but it's not bad.
Oh.
I'm okay with it. We head to Nick and Lori's apartment, where they're joined by Janet and Hunt. Nick tells them about Samantha's death. Hunt makes an insensitive joke about it.
Because of course he does.
Of course he does. And it's also where she gets her name in the credits. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but just her name in the credits is the insensitive joke he calls her / Samantha.
Ah. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's not that. I mean, it is, but it isn't, you know. Nick tells him this is serious. Janet says, "Don't you think it's just a little weird that 2 people Nick saved are now dead?" Hunt replied, "Weird is putting tampons in your kids' ears. That's weird. She was bound to die sooner or later." Also, you know, first fair thing Hunt's ever said.
Yeah. Putting tampons in your kids' ears is pretty bizarre.
Yeah. Lori says, "That's actually why we asked you guys to come over. To put tampons in their ears, obviously."
Yeah. I'm glad we were on the same page. I'm about to make the same joke.
I didn't think to make that joke, but I did think, wow, this line doesn't make any sense. Like, the way she worded it. Like, that's actually why we asked. Like, no, it's not. Nothing he said is why you asked her to be here.
I've gathered you all here to
the night before it happened,
so we can test it out.
Yeah, the night before it happened, Nick had a really strange dream. It's like, well, that has nothing to do with the weirdness of the specific way she died. That's something from unrelated, but from before. Whatever. Nick says, "But it wasn't a dream. It was like these random sounds and images. They really didn't make any sense."
Almost like a slideshow.
Yeah. It didn't make any sense. Kind of like the script. Nah, I mean, the script makes sense. It's just not good.
Yeah.
I feel like for the most part, I would say this story makes sense. I'm not going to say it's a good...
It's just not a good story.
Yeah, but it does make sense. Lost my place, though. Making fun of the movie. And then I had read what killed them, and I realized that I'd actually seen how the next person was going to die. Janet says, wait, what do you mean? The next person? Lori says, okay, don't laugh, but we stayed up Googling premonitions, visions, signs, things like that, just to see how much information we could get. She sets down printed articles, including one on Flight 180. Whoa! But the second one is not about any of the incidents that have happened. Because that would be a little too hard to remember any of the other things you've done in the franchise.
Hey, what? No.
I don't know. Maybe, hear me out. Crazy thought. The movie that the director of this also directed, the second one, could have mentioned that one in the second one.
Yeah.
But no. It's just some random made-up event about a premonition.
Yeah. It sure is. Pretty funny.
Yeah. Nick says, there are tons of articles about people who had a premonition about a disaster. They saved themselves. And then they died. I'm doing that thing where I'm doing dramatic Devon Sawa voice that Devon Sawa never did. Like I did in the first episode, but I gotta stop myself. It's just when dialogue's bad enough, I want to make fun of it like that, but I can't. Yeah. I don't think that's something people want to actually listen to. Hunt says, okay, so people died. So what? Nick continues, every survivor died in the precise order they were meant to die in the accident, unless someone intervened and it didn't do it in that order, because that actually happens multiple times in every movie.
Yeah.
Janet says, well, we survived, so how does that... So does that mean we all die? Well, who's next? Nick says, I don't remember. But there might be an out. Some say the chain can be broken. Like if you were to intervene into someone else's death. That would end it. But others say, unless the chain is broken completely, then you're just changing the batting order. And sooner or later, you're up. Which is actually how it works every time. Yeah. And I am really kind of curious who's saying you could intervene and fix it, because it never happens.
Yeah, it sure doesn't.
The only way to beat death is new life.
Yeah.
Presumably. They might have died off screen.
Yeah. Very likely.
But it's never been confirmed, so I believe they're alive.
It hasn't been confirmed yet.
I believe they're alive. Because they created new life. By letting her die and then come back to life.
Yeah.
Yep. That was the really great writing this team came up with the first time. I lost my place. Batting order. There it is. Hunt says, that is some spooky psychobabble poop. Janet says, shut up. Please. This is not funny. I'm glad she said please. That's very polite of her. Hunt says, he could be watching a ton of TV. Janet continues, you know what this stuff does to me. Lori says, Janet, it's okay. All we're trying to do is figure out what's going on. Janet gets up, saying, no. Well, you're going to have to figure that out without me. Maybe you can call me later, but I gotta go. Hope you have fun. After she walks out, Hunt says, what's with that? She went from uptight but normal to uptight and totally insane. Nick says, why do you gotta be a jerk? Definitely says jerk. I almost said the word he actually said, because that's a word I've always said in my life. But I looked it up, and it looks like you might actually not even be able to say that till at least PG-13, maybe R. It's kind of... The jury's out on if I can say the word he said, so I'll say jerk.
Yeah.
You gotta be a jerk all the time. She saw somebody die right in front of her. Hunt says, so did we. Nick says, yeah, and we're all freaked out. Would it kill you to be sensitive? Hunt says, I don't know. I've never tried it.
Yeah, he's too alpha male.
And he gets up to leave. Lori asks, where are you going? Hunt replies, if you're right about this whole crash thing, which I don't know what crash thing. What crash? Did they forget which movie they wrote? There was no, crash thing. I guess,
the initial NASCAR?
I guess. Sure. It still feels...
Maybe?
It feels like a weird choice of words for this movie. But he does. And then I'm going to make the most of every moment I have left. So I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to go play harmonica. If I'm dying, I'm trying. Get her done. Oh, wait, sorry. No, he doesn't actually say that. Keep up the good fight, guys.
Get her done.
I think it's actually if I'm lying, I'm dying, or I'm lying. It's slightly different. It does sound like he's trying to be Mater. And by Mater, I mean just Larry the Cable Guy.
No. That's not a real person.
And this is post-Cars. So.
Yeah. He's just a Mater.
He also adds at the end, if I happen to bump into Janet, I will check on her. Laurie says thanks, and Hunt leaves. I guess he decided to try to be sensitive.
Yeah, or at least like a human being.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Nick says, well, that went well. And Laurie replies, yeah, our friends think we're crazy. It's great. Nick says, well, maybe we are. Look, they're probably just some weird coincidences. You think? Laurie says, I hope so. Nick has another premonition slideshow, including a blowtorch, a metal cord unraveling from a spindle? It's like, I don't know what word you would describe for that part of the winch that's being unraveled from. But also, there's a canister flying towards the camera. And the words, it's here, which are also in the other one. But I didn't realize it till this one. This one's visible.
Yeah, it is very visible in the scene.
Laurie says, Nick, what'd you see? He kind of answers with, I think we can stop it. We gotta go to the racetrack. Doesn't tell her what he saw.
Yeah.
So he, kind of answers, but not really. We cut to them sneaking into the racetrack to try and jog his memory of his premonitions to figure out the order. He starts to remember the order. Nadia first, then Carter and Cynthia, then Samantha, but he can't remember after that. George catches them and takes them to the security office. Nick tells him, I just need to remember the order. George says, young man, that sounds crazy, but maybe this will help you. He shows him the security footage of the crash. It jogs Nick's memory on how Andy dies next, then Hunt and Janet, then George, then Laurie, and finally him. Hunt and Janet, then George, then Laurie.
Yeah.
Okay. Nick says, maybe if we could stop the mechanic from getting killed, we can break the chain, and the rest of us will be safe. Laurie says, but how? I mean, we don't even know his name. We know nothing about him. Nick says, but we do know where he works, and points to the jacket he left behind. Bum bum. We cut to the three of them arriving at Grand State Customs the next day. After being scared from a fireball shot from the exhaust of a motorcycle, Laurie accidentally bumps into the car lift controls, dropping a car being worked on, almost crushing Andy, who is working on it. When he sees them, Andy says, you? What are you doing here? Nick responds, trying to find you. Look, man, I'm sorry for being blunt, but your life's in danger. You're gonna die. Laurie says, 3 of the people who left the stadium before the accident happened, they're now dead. I'm sorry, but we think you're gonna be next. Andy says, you're serious? Andy's manager comes over and tells Andy to take his visitors outside because they can't be in there.
Yeah.
Andy's manager is played by Dane Rhodes of Django Unchained, The Magnificent Seven, Happy Death Day, and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, alongside Horror Bois alums Richie Montgomery of Texas Chainsaw 3D, and Final Destination alum Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Woo!
Of the last one. As they head out... Sorry.
No, it's just fanboying over Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
So that's going to be me if we ever watch another movie with Krista Allen.
It's fair.
As they head out, the car lift is risen and someone puts a dip cup on top of a, I'm going to say engine. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. Generator, maybe? Some sort of mechanical thing that's going to malfunction.
Yeah, you understand.
Yeah. Outside, Andy says, "Look, man, I'm trying to put my life back together, okay? I mean, watching Nadia die like that in front of me." George says, "Hey, I know exactly how you feel. I lost my wife and my daughter in a car accident. I was driving and I was drunk. Every day I asked myself, how come it couldn't be me instead of them? For a long time, I carried so much pain and anger. It was actually destroying their memory. So now, I try to live each day in their name." Dang, that's like a nice little speech there. Jeez.
Yeah.
Is that character development I see? Get out of here. I don't want to have that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I will say George in most of his scenes is good.
Yeah. No,
And this one, he does stumble over his lines like a little bit.
Oh, I didn't notice it. It's fine. But it's just like it's also like just weird that like he's the one character that got a character like arc. Not our main characters. They don't get back.
Well, is it an arc if it's already like?
Yeah, I guess it's not an arc, but like he gets like a backstory and like he gets a character.
Oh,
so many of these other people are just like, I'm one note person B. I'm one note person A.
Here's mechanic person.
Yeah. Here's mechanic. Here's girl. Here's ex-girl.
Racist.
Here's jerk boy. Here's main character who's there.
Yeah.
And then
he
there's
really is.
George, this former alcoholic whose wife is dead, and it's changed who he is as a person, and he lives every day in her name.
Yeah.
Did they just like start right? Is he the first character they wrote, and then they're like, we don't have time.
He was the main character initially.
Yeah, we don't have time to write this many great characters. We'll just keep George.
Make everyone forgettable.
Yeah. All right.
Especially the main character.
All right, movie. Inside, the dip cup falls and spills onto the electronics of a winch. Back outside, Nick says, "Hey guys, I hate to break it to you, but I'm getting a really bad feeling." Andy says, "Look, kid, I'm around dangerous equipment every day. If I was meant to die, it would have happened by now." The winch releases the van and unwinds and almost hits Andy, but just barely stops short. Andy says, "Well, I guess it's not my turn to die." Inside, the once again, let's say spindle of the winch breaks off and flies into a gas canister, sending it rocketing into Andy, flinging him back into and through a fence in the most unintentionally hilarious kill due to how the effects age. This is so funny. And also really angering because, once again, they did have some cool practical effects that probably needed a little bit of work, but not what they did here.
Yeah. It was pretty sad.
Yeah, but this is really funny. Like I laughed out loud when I first time I watched this kill. I was like, "Oh, that's amazing."
Yeah.
Not in like it's art. This is stupid, which I'm okay.
Yeah.
With. I'm okay with
very
that. There's nothing wrong with being bad, in my opinion, as long as you do it well. And I guess this does.
Yeah. Is it intentionally bad?
I'm not sure.
I would almost guarantee you probably not. No.
Yeah. Nick can't figure out between Janet and Hunt who would be next. So he goes to find Hunt, and Lori and George go to find Janet. We cut to Hunt playing harmonica with a random girl in the cabana by a golf course's pool. Also, I would just want to point out, not that I typically would harp on harmonica playing scenes. I normally try to just bring them up and move on. But the logistics of this scene make no sense.
Yeah, that they're at a public pool.
They're at a public pool with this cabana that has, like, maybe a sheet,
a flap
basically.
for a door.
Yeah. And he's yelling instructions. And no one bats an eye when they leave the cabana.
Yeah.
Just saying, a little weird.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Also, he's a selfish harmonica player. Not that you're surprised.
Yeah.
Lost my place. I know where I am. I just gotta find it on the page. Then we go to Janet, who gives money to a homeless man. After she leaves, he throws the penny she gave him into the street, causing some pigeons to fly off, one pooping on Janet's windshield, so she heads to the car wash. The homeless man is played by Harold Evans of Double Jeopardy, alongside Horror Boy alum and Final Destination alum Keegan Connor Tracy of the second Final Destination. On the way, her sunroof acts up. I wonder if that could be important.
No, probably not.
We then head to Nick, who gets a double premonition slideshow after seeing the words water on a Clear Rivers water sign. I guess her family set up a water company in her name after she died.
Yeah. Apparently. I don't know why, of all things.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but alright. Or her parents were just really big fans of that water company and named her after it.
Oh, that's so much worse.
Because their last name was Rivers, and they're like, I love me some Clear Rivers water. We should name our daughter Clear.
Bottle of water.
We should name our daughter Clear Rivers.
God.
He sees Hunt's lucky coin, a PSI gauge breaking, a soapy window, a what's it called? I wrote something, but I know it's wrong. It's a circuit breaker exploding, a big pipe bursting, and ends with the camera traveling through a pipe. Nick leaves a message for Hunt telling him to stay away from the water. I will also say that the next few scenes are all intercut, but I'm going to not tell them that way. I'm going to describe them as one per
Lay them
time.
out?
Yeah, so it makes actually sense. First, like, little scenes we have Nick, as well as George and Lori, both trying to get to their respective people. We'll cut back to each of them a couple times. It doesn't matter. We're not going to bring them up again, but it happens. And now we're going to tell you Hunt's side of the story first, because his starts first, but technically ends after, but it doesn't matter. Then we have Hunt, who gets squirted by a water gun from a kid, which breaks his phone so he doesn't get his calls. He takes the water gun from the kid and sets it down on like this, like, I don't know what he set it down on exactly, but it falls from where it was put, hitting the switch on the pool drain.
Uh-oh.
A golfer hits a ball that hits Hunt's drink, causing him to drop his lucky coin into the pool. It gets sucked in the drain. He jumps in and after it and gets stuck sitting on the drain. Nick shows up and can't find Hunt. The PSI gauge rises until the gauge breaks, and then his organs get sucked out from his butthole, exploding out of
disemboweled
yeah,
by a pool drain.
exploding out of a pipe, raining down blood and guts.
And probably one of my favorite kills in Final Destination.
It's honestly great. Guts.
Especially considering it's Hunt, and we all hate Hunt.
The guts.
True.
The guts are practical. The blood is not, because this was filmed at a real public pool and they literally couldn't use any fake blood because it could, like, you couldn't get in the pool. All the blood in that little scene is all completely CGI. So yeah.
Interesting.
At the same time, Janet arrives at the car wash. She gets a call from Ghostface. Wait, no.
Oh.
It's Lori. And not Laurie Strode. Lori from this movie. But she hangs up, telling her she'll call her back in 5 because she's about to go to the car wash. Janet closes her sunroof and drives into the car wash. Her antenna isn't down, so it gets broken and flies off into the circuit breaker, causing it to explode into sparks.
Yeah, which whoever left the circuit breaker door open, you should be fired for gross negligence.
But also, she was also negligent. The sign clearly said to put...
It did say tenants.
Yeah, and she did not.
So she did have it coming a little bit.
I agree.
She did have death
she chose to play harmonica, probably, with Hunt.
Yeah.
She deserves whatever she has coming.
you basically have death by embalment
I
by proxy.
had a terrible joke I wanted to make, but I won't because we're a PG podcast, and I'll move on.
I won't inquire further.
She gets another call from Lori, but can't understand her due to the bad reception inside the car wash. Due to the circuit breaker issue, the car wash stops in the middle. We see the shot of her soapy window. That was from the premonition slideshow.
Yeah.
She can't call for help because now she has no service. A pipe above her starts to leak. She tries to drive, but can't because she's locked onto the track. Her sunroof opens itself right as the pipe above her completely bursts and starts filling her car with water. She struggles for a bit, trying to break the window. And I believe, once again, I remember where I saw this. It was like, I didn't see, it wasn't like mentioned in like the making of, so take it with a grain of salt. But I heard on like some website when I was looking up like a character's name or something, that the actress, when filming the scene, accidentally actually broke the window.
Oh, fun.
None of that's for sure, but it's kind of funny that that her character couldn't, but she did on accident. If it's true.
Oops.
Yeah. But yeah, so as her car continues to start filling, she starts basically almost drowning. But she's able to get her head out of the sunroof just as loose wires restart the circuit breakers, and she starts moving forwards towards the spinning sponge that would probably take off her head. And that's also at the time that the sunroof decided to now it's ready to close, so it traps her head in it.
Nice and locked in.
Yeah. George drives his truck into the exit of the car wash and stops Janet's car from moving forward, and then starts pushing her back. Lori gets out and helps open the sunroof right before the big burst pipe falls onto Janet's car. Yay! Yeah. They saved Janet's life. They intervened.
Yippee! Now they get to delay their own death for a little bit.
What? No, they might be able to end it. We don't, Chris. In this movie, we don't know.
Yeah.
Every time we don't know, Chris. They could. Maybe they do it this time.
Yeah, maybe do. Maybe
do. Lori asks George, "What are we supposed to do now? I mean, what's gonna happen to us?" George replies, saving Janet either destroyed this list and all of us are home free, or it skips her for now and I'm next. Lori says, "George, you can't give up." George says, "No, it's okay." Lori asks, "What do you mean, it's okay?" "I mean, maybe if we all stick together," George interjects. "No, I'm at peace with it. And, my family's waiting for me, and I'm ready to go."
But she is valid.
Yeah. We cut to later at George's house where he's sitting at the table emotionally, considering to drink a glass of alcohol, even though we saw earlier he had an AA book as well as
the Bible.
His wife and child died due to him drinking.
Yeah.
We cut to Lori and Nick safe-proofing their apartment. Lori says, "I don't understand how George can be so calm about things." Nick says, "Maybe he was in shock." Lori says, "No, that's not it. It was very clear. Clear rivers, water." Wait, no.
Yeah. Delicious bottled water.
It's like he just accepted it. I think he's given up. If he dies, I'm next. And when that happens, maybe you should just keep your distance. Nick says, "Babe, what are you talking about? Come on." Lori says, "I don't want anything to happen to you. And if we're together, it makes it easier for death to take both of us." Nick says, "I don't care what happens. We are in this together." Aww. Death's wind blows in and knocks over a cup of coffee onto a newspaper, revealing the message, "Through action, they were saved."
Whoa.
They take this as no one else has to die and leave to go tell George. When he doesn't answer the door, they let themselves in and find him in his bedroom trying to hang himself, but the rope breaks. He tells them he's been trying everything. He threw up a bottle of painkillers he tried to overdose on. His car kept stalling so he couldn't die from exhaust fumes. And then this. Lori says, "So wait, saving Janet must have destroyed the list. Then And they celebrate with a bottle of sparkling apple cider, including a 3D cork coming at the camera. Whoa!
Oh, so crazy. 3G.
They toast to life. George says, "We've been given a second chance, so what are you guys gonna do with it?" Actually, before we get into this scene, I just want to pause and go try to figure out their logic at this point. So do they think they just can't die, period, now? And they're like, "Oh, cool, I'll never die."
Yeah, I'm immortal. I tried to kill myself 3
Yeah,
times.
like he tried 3 times. Like he can do anything, and actually probably could right now because spoiler, there's a reason death hasn't coming for him yet. Like, what? No, I guess we're just all immortal now.
Only almost.
But yeah. So you ask, what are you gonna do with your second chance, basically? Lori wants to do a lot of traveling, include going to Paris. That's where the first movie was going.
Yeah.
Nick says, "I'm just thankful we have our whole lives ahead of us, And now this is over, I'm not gonna take another day for granted. Maybe it's time to stop talking about doing stuff and actually start doing it." Lori says, "YOLO!" I mean, she doesn't, but she does. She says you only live once.
Yeah.
George replies, "That's what I'm talking about." And then we fade to black and transition to Nick packing a bag. And he gets a phone call from Ghostface. Wait, no, it's just Lori again. Dang it, Lori.
Dang it. Stop calling.
She makes sure he doesn't need anything from the mall and asks if he wants to see a movie with her and Janet. He says he's good, and they hang up. Wish it was Ghostface.
Yeah, that's fair.
A book about Europe falls, and a picture. It's a Bic lighter. It falls out.
No,
That
it's
knocks,
not.
And that knocks a book of Europe, and it falls down. And a picture of a hand reaching out from the water sends Nick into a premonition slideshow.
Yeah.
Starting with emergency vehicle lights, then a faucet, then a ceiling getting wet, then a 3D snake that spikes the camera before becoming the medical symbol, and ends with blood splattering a tiled wall. Which, spoiler, that specific thing never happens.
Yeah.
Normally, everything that happens in these happens. Not that one.
Okay, same here.
Also, I mean, the word "it's here" is there somewhere, because of course it is. On the news, Nick sees that Cowboy Jonathan had survived the crash and was rescued from the rubble. What? He calls George and tells him to meet him at the hospital because they got the order wrong. Because Jonathan didn't die. And now this is the point where I'm going to pause again real quick. I don't remember the exact order, but I can tell you, I remember when I was watching this the second time, Jonathan did not die in the order that they said it, because the whole a couple scenes, we're gonna find out why Jonathan, it skipped. He's now alive when he wasn't supposed to be. But in the order they die in the original premonition, Jonathan dies, I think, before Hunt and Janet. So the Hunt and Janet stuff should not have been able to happen until he dies, with the rules of how death works.
Yeah.
But, whatever. Who cares about continuity and the one movie you're making?
Yeah.
George literally can't die. He's immortal. But Hunt, he can get his butthole sucked out. Phrasing. But yeah. Weird. Just a little weird. Just a little weird that, the rules don't apply here because they wanted this cool big reveal here.
Yeah.
Or, hey, hear me out. Crazy thought, Chris. You know what they could have done? Had the cowboy died at a different point in the premonition so it works.
Oh, yeah.
We cut to Jonathan in his hospital bed. And then we cut to a different room in the hospital where an old racist Korean War survivor is about to do aquatherapy. The doctor or nurse is pulled out, but the faucet is left on and the tub starts to overflow. Water starts to drip on Jonathan from the ceiling. He tries to hit the button to call for a nurse, but it shocks him so he can't.
Ah.
And when his machines start getting wet and short-circuiting, he gets himself out of bed. George and Nick are in the elevator, and by the way, a full elevator. Just because there is some genuinely, actually, like, I think supposed to be comedy,
true.
funny moments of like people reacting to the things they're saying as they say some of this crazy stuff they're about to say.
Yeah, definitely. Like the lady in the front of the elevator.
And also, there's at least one of the male doctors I remember for Solace was like it's just they're all kind of being like a
Yeah,
Are we
like-
hearing this?
Huh?
Here's what they say. I wrote down all the dialogue here. George says, "So how can there be someone else on the list? He didn't leave the racetrack with us." Nick says, "If I would have asked him to move like I did in the premonition, he would have died. Instead, he survived. That's why you couldn't kill yourself. You weren't next. He was. He wasn't. But whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't destined at all." You're right. I guess it's not destined at all. It's whatever order death decides to do. George says, "So if he dies, I'm next again." They get off the elevator and arrive in Jonathan's room, right as the roof gives way and the tub falls on Jonathan, crushing him to death. With a blood splattering on the tile wall. Oh, wait, no. No, that's actually not here. Alright, well, whatever. We cut to the girls at the mall. After getting harassed by dudes with an RC helicopter and an RC number 6 race car. Don't know why that scene's there, but they are getting, like, I mean, I guess it's to set up, like, the race car for her to go, like, oh, that's the same race car. But why are these weird, creepy dudes just, like, harassing these girls with their RC cars from their RC booth?
Yeah, it's a valid question.
Janet comments how dangerous it is to transport this, like, heavy piece of equipment, or I don't know exactly what it is, over the giant window because someone could get killed. Then we cut back to George and Nick leaving the hospital. George says, "Man, I'm feeling something." Nick says, "Don't lose hope. Man, I think we just keep an eye out for the signs of danger. I think we got a shot. Let's just go find Lori and Janet." George says, No, not that. It's like deja vu. But like deja vu of something that's gonna happen. You know, like deja vu. Oh, wait, sorry, that's the last movie's talking about deja vu, where they literally describe deja vu. Sorry, I'm wrong. Start that line again. No, not that. It's like deja vu. My wife said that deja vu is God's way up, but he doesn't get to finish, as he's hit by an ambulance as they cross the road in a fun, gory homage to the first movie kill from the bus. Like it's also referencing, like, talking about deja vu, and they're reusing a kill. I actually really like this kill. I like the setup. I'm cool with them reusing the kill because of the way it's specifically, like, set up in the dialogue. I liked it. It was fun. Also, it's gory. Gore is always fun. There's a lot of practical gore on the ground and stuff in front of the ambulance.
It's also true.
Nick then sees the snake symbol on the ambulance. The, like, medical snake around it. I don't even know what it's supposed to be. I don't know what the point of that is. I'm sure someone out there might. I don't. Chris might even know, but we don't have to worry about it because it doesn't matter. I mean, if you do know, you can tell me real quick.
Oh, it's a staff of some Greek god.
And he likes snakes?
No, but they're the god of, like, health and wellness.
Okay, cool. All right. So it's
Some to that effect. I'm sure I'm not 100%
so it's
right on that.
pagan worship that they're forcing on. They're forcing their pagan beliefs on me.
Huh?
Let me guess. I know who's behind this pagan cult. It's that dang. Can't go there because then we'd have to explain the whole joke. So we'll move on.
Mercury once attempted to stop a fight between two snakes by throwing his rod at them.
Okay.
Whereupon they twined themselves around the rod. The rod of Asclepius.
They're forcing their false gods on me every time I go to the doctor. What about separation of church and hospital? I'm going to go down to the Methodist hospital and I'm going to complain about this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a thing, like, everywhere in the world, but especially here in, like, San Antonio, every hospital is, like, funded by a church. I don't know if that's just a thing in general in the world, or just like specifically like a Texas or San Antonio thing, but like every other church is like, oh, it's the Northwest Baptist. It's like, oh, the meth. Like, why are all these hospitals owned by church? Whatever, I don't care.
No.
So back to the girls at the mall having a stupid, seemingly pointless, but technically not, as we see a little bit later, conversations about some new sneaks Lori bought. And she called them sneaks.
True. Does call them
Which,
sneaks.
I will say, this whole conversation is still pointless because the scene they're about to do could happen without them being new sneakers. They could just be old sneakers and say they work. But no, they had to have this whole weird conversation about her asking Janet, what do you think of my shoes? Oh, they're not for you. They're for my boyfriend. Shut up. The characters suck so bad sometimes. Sometimes they're fine, but sometimes they're really annoying. We then head to a section of the movie theater, which the movie theater is in the mall. I've seen that before, but that's how it is here. And there's some construction of an expansion that's happening. A nail gun gets jammed and runs out of nails. I guess it's jammed because we see later there are nails in it. Before all the construction workers go on a lunch break. Which I don't feel like is how lunch breaks would work. I feel like there'd be, multiple, so there's always someone in there working.
Yeah.
But, they needed an excuse to get all of them out of this set piece so they could tell their story.
So it could be really unsafe.
Yeah. Back to the girls where Lori gets the lace of her new sneaks caught in the escalator, but she gets it out before any injury can occur. I wonder if that's, that could be, feels like foreshadow. No, it couldn't be. No, it couldn't be. Back at the construction area, Death's wind blows a tarp that's blocking a window, so the sunlight hits a pair of glasses, causing it to magnify it and start lighting a pile of sawdust. The girls head to their movie. Nick arrives at the mall outside and sees an ad for the movie the girls are seeing on a bus, and he gets a premonition slideshow of the mechanical innards of an escalator, a sawdust fire, the words, "It's here," nails flying at the camera, and an explosion happening in a theater. He rushes inside. Back in the construction area, Death's wind blows the tarp completely off and onto a fan hitting the switch. The fan then blows a cart that has paint on it across the room. A can of paint thinner falls over and leaves a trail from the sawdust to some more flammable liquids. But also, we pan over to see multiple barrels marked spontaneously combustible.
Yeah.
Not just combustible.
Spontaneous combustible.
Flammable. Spontaneously combustible. Which means, technically, these
blow up at any time.
These didn't even need this fire to be involved. They could just have literally exploded. And that's... If you're building an expansion of a movie theater, you do need nitroglycerin. Yeah. I also just realized apparently when I was typing this I mistyped it, and I actually technically wrote that the flan blows a cart that has paint on it across the room. So it's a flan, like the Mexican dessert.
Yeah. No, it was for sure.
Okay,
definitely.
Cool. Also, after we see the barrels, we find out that those are right behind the movie screen of the theater auditorium that the girls are in. A guy yells, "Down in front, butthole," to a guy standing up. An usher tells someone to move their feet off the chair in front of them. In the movie, a character says, "Put these in your ears, it's going to get loud," reminiscent of Samantha and her sons. Lori says to Janet, "Look, don't get mad at me, but do you remember when Nick said that he could see signs before something bad was going to happen? Well, now, I think I'm seeing them." Bum, bum, bum. Janet says, "Lori, it's over. Nothing is going to happen. Now can we please watch the movie?" Because now Janet's insufferable as well. She wasn't really insufferable. She wasn't like a well-written character, but she's now annoyingly not willing to accept that it could still be going on.
Yeah. Very goofy.
Yeah.
Very silly.
The sawdust finally goes up in flames and lights the paint thinner trail. Cut to Nick running up the escalator to get to the theater. Upstairs, the fire continues to spread to more flammable liquids almost at the barrels. Back to Nick, who goes into an auditorium showing the movie, but it's the wrong showing!
No!
Back to Laurie and Janet, where the guy behind them's ringtone is Dixie. She tries to tell Janet something's wrong, but Janet won't take her seriously. Quick shot of the worsening fire. Nick heads into the right auditorium and tells Laurie it's not over, and George is dead. Janet won't leave with them, saying, "Don't you see? This is where I was supposed to be in the first place. Not that stupid race. I was meant to see this movie." Nick pulls Laurie out of the auditorium right before the flammable barrels explode, sending the nail gun at Janet, killing her. As they run out, another explosion happens. Because like a giant flammable tank explodes. Yet another explosion sends a pillar falling down onto the escalator. There might have also been an explosion I missed in there. There's a lot of explosions.
Alright.
But the last one hits a pillar that falls into the escalator that Nick and Laurie are on, exposing the mechanical innards. Nick tries to hold on to Laurie, but her sneaks get caught in the innards, and she's pulled in and grinded up in a fun, gory kill. That's somewhat practical, a little bit of CGI, but done in a really well way. You can actually see the, practical lower torso that K&B made. They didn't completely replace it with CGI this time.
True.
What a novel concept.
Crazy.
Also, while she dies, a bunch of blood splatters into Nick's face as we go through his eye and back out into the world because that was just another premonition. What? Back to when George is talking about deja vu. Nick tries to yell, "Look out!" but George is still hit by the ambulance. Aww.
Alright.
Nick rushes to the mall/theater. He runs to the construction area and sees the fire getting real close to the flammable barrels. He tries to pull the fire alarm, but it's not connected. He starts putting the fire out with an extinguisher, but it runs empty before the fire is all the way out. He throws it in anger, and it hits the sawhorse table that the nail gun is on, and it starts to tip over. He stamps out the fire, but a single ember floats over to a different pile of sawdust and starts a fire there. Yeah. The nail gun then hits the ground and shoots him in the arm, pinning him to the wall, and hits the flammable barrel, so the flammable liquid starts to pour out, heading over to the new fire. He's able to grab a burning 2x4 and raise it in the air, triggering the sprinkler system right before the flaming trail was about to get to the barrels. And I'm going to pause there for a second to say, what? Why didn't the sprinklers go off with all the smoke in there in the premonition or here before he got there? And I was hoping when I was rewatching that maybe I'd see he actually hits it with the 2x4 and that's what actually it breaks the valve and no, it just goes off. It decides to work when it's time for him to save the day.
You understand.
Yeah, okay. Well, we fade to white now and jump 2 weeks in time. Nick walks past a construction worker on a scaffold and tells him about this one part of it being loose. I don't know exactly what part. I'm not a scaffold expert, but there's this one thing that's loose on it, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, thank you. Well, I'll get it fixed." Nick then meets Laurie and Janet at Death by Caffeine, where for some reason the girls think Nick's mocha looks disgusting. It's got a lot of crap in it, which I'm sure I feel like you're a coffee snob maybe, but I've never heard someone say "Oh my gosh, that Frappuccino looks disgusting. Yeah. It's gonna taste terrible." And he takes a drink of it and he's like, "Oh, you're right, it is disgusting." It's what? Who's ever said that about super maybe even "Oh, you couldn't finish it because it's too rich," but no one's gonna take one drink of that and go, "This is disgusting." It made me mad. Not that I even like coffee. I don't like coffee. I'd go, it's disgusting because there's coffee in it. But but that's not what they're doing. It's, oh, how dare you. Ugh. Well, why'd you put all that stuff in your coffee? It's like, it's 2009. Like, every other drink at Starbucks is this. Why are we acting like this is not normal?
Yeah.
But alright, whatever, writers. The writers are really big into, like, black coffee.
I guess so.
I guess it's actually just a writer, not writers, but whatever. The homeless man from earlier recognizes Nick as the one who stopped the mall fire and tells him he saved a lot of lives. Nick says, "I was just in the right place at the right time." The homeless man replies, "That's all it takes sometimes." And he leaves. They sit down, and the girls start chatting about, like, a purse or something. I don't know. You're not really supposed to even really pay attention to them because we kind of start lowering their volume as we pay attention to Nick, who looks around and sees an ad for the place where the golf, like, I think it's a country club, but it's also like a golf course, the pool. I think it's a country club. They never directly say it's a country club. So, but yeah, it's that. The movie on the back of the magazine, a race on TV. He sees He sees that "It's Coming" has been crossed out on the table, and something new is carved in. We don't see what it is, but I assume that it's here, because that's been, like, the thing they've been teasing this whole movie. And no, it's no longer "It's coming" now. It's here. Like, that makes sense. Like, but you don't actually see a clear shot of what's carved in now.
Oh.
I think it is a very safe assumption that it is the words "It's here," but they don't tell you that for sure.
Yeah, it does cut away before you get a chance to see him.
He looks up and says, "What if we didn't change anything? What if us being here right now was the plan from the beginning?" Then, thanks to the scaffolding falling into the street, a truck comes barreling into the window, and we see them die in the style of the X-ray opening credits.
Yep.
And that's the movie.
It's the movie.
So now it's time for my thoughts, which actually may surprise people. I kind of enjoyed this. Like, it's not good by any means. It is by far the worst of the franchise so far. And from my understanding, 5 is actually, like, one of the better ones, so it's going to probably definitely stay the worst. But it's just bad enough at times to be fun. It doesn't have that weird, unquantifiable charm that, like, the first and third do. And, like, it's not good. But, like, the kills are fun enough, the ones that aren't completely ruined by CGI. And then even some of the ones that are ruined by CGI, though, are so over the top, it gets stupid funny. And for the most part, except for, like, Hunt and Carter, I actually enjoy most of the characters for most of the movie. I know some people hate all the characters, and I get it. They are kind of one-note characters. I can understand. But I actually enjoy most of the characters and the acting that's done. So, like, I enjoy this movie. It's not good, and by any means. Like, we've said that about every one of these movies, but, like, this is one that I would, like, strongly say is not good. Like, it's not good. But I had fun watching it. You couldn't tell with that review because I was, crapping on every other thing it does, because it is so flawed. But those flaws are more when I'm trying to review it than when I'm just sitting down to watch the movie.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts.
That's fair. I would also say that this movie is definitely not good. But despite that, I did enjoy parts of it. Like I said, I think the Hunt kill might be one of my favorite kills in the franchise, just because how wild and over the top it is. Just like, who thinks of being disemboweled by a pool drain? And that's just it's. I feel like one of the perfect things to describe the Final Destination franchise is this kill. You're like, yeah, this is
fair. Yeah.
This is what you can expect from this franchise overall. But yeah, outside of that, the dialogue is awful. The acting is pretty awful. And yeah, the CGI is definitely of its time. And hard to watch because of it. Especially when that there were decent
Yes.
practical effects.
I was gonna
that
add that
were-
once you were done. Is that I wanted to add in that I am genuinely mad, more mad once I watched like the video, and then when I actually was watching the movie. 'Cause I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, it's just of that era. But you know,
Yeah.
there was really good effects done by one of like the best effects studios ever.
Uh-huh.
It's like
Yeah.
K&B and Tom Savini are like the top two in my mind, and like this is one of them. And it's not very. We don't get to see that cool stuff they do for the most part. And it sucks. But, yeah, I enjoyed it. It
Sure
was fun
do.
enough. It's a fun enough time, is my thoughts. I do like your point about the Carter death. Like, it is very much like what Final Destination is. Even though I feel like in my mind, I always expect, like, the super Rube Goldberg-style kills. They actually don't happen as often in the franchise as I'm learning. Like, that's what I feel like you hear people talk about the franchise being, but I feel like it is more cool, like, quick, creative kills like this. I don't know. I enjoy it. It's a fun movie. Not really, but it's good enough. But next week's supposed to actually be good, I think. Maybe. I haven't seen it, but I've heard Final Destination 5 is a good movie. So maybe we'll enjoy it. Maybe we'll break the system. Normally we like movies that people think are bad. This time we're going to think a movie's bad that people like.
Aww.
I'm going to do it on purpose this next time. I'm going to hate the next movie. I'm going to go into it hating it.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, if you like this podcast, leave it a 5-star review on any podcast app, whether that be Spotify, Google, Apple, Podbean. Is one of the ones we're on, because that's in my. I looked at our analytics on Spotify. Also, shout outs to all our big fans in England. 8% of our audience is from England, apparently. Cool.
Oh.
Yeah. 1% is from Australia and 1% is from Germany, I believe.
That's
Or it might be France and Germany. It's someone in Germany. At the 1%. Then we have like a bunch of like less than 1% that equal out to 2% total of the audience. Whatever. That's not the point. Also, shout out to the... This is for you guys. This is for you specifically. Shout out to the 6% of our audience that is girls now. Hello.
What up?
But also, hey, thanks for being here. Genuinely, I don't care if you're a girl or a guy or you're somewhere in between. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just glad you guys are listening. And if you want to support us directly, head on over to patreon.com/horrorboys. Also, forgot to I normally do it before the Patreon, but also if you listen to this podcast on all those podcast apps we just listed off, we also are on YouTube where you can see our pretty little faces.
Right.
So head on over to youtube.com/@horrorboys. I've been Austin, joined by Chris, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye!
Bye-bye.